Welcome to the News and Why It Matters. I am Sarah Gonzalez. We are once again joined by Democratic presidential candidate Ami Horowitz. Thank you so much for being here again.
Second in a row.
I know.
Impressive. I have more important things to do, you would think.
You got to rally.
I don't.
You got to rally the moderate Republicans.
That's right.
All right, Stu. What's the top story for you?
Did the Democrats misjudge the 2020 primary?
Okay, Jason.
Tensions with Iran continue to go up. I think on this show, I was saying that we'll never go to war with Iran. I'm still holding to that, but I think that the trends are still moving in the direction where I think they're going.
All right, Ami.
Mine is going on with the foreign policy theme is Russia and United States. Are we frenemies? Are we enemies? What are we exactly? What does the news portray us to be?
You're going to get this guy going.
We're going to be friends.
You're going to get this. Stu and I might as well just sit back and take off the rest of the show and let you guys.
I'm on vacation later in the week. You guys just go ahead. I'll go early.
A lot to get into, but first we want to thank our sponsor, Riduzone. So I used to be a lot larger than I am today. That's me, 12 years ago? And
I don't like that you're brandishing a firearm.
Or do you feel triggered?
I'm very nervous.
Does it? It was 12 years ago, 100 pounds ago. So I know the struggle of weight loss, and I know the feeling that you're just never going to get to your ultimate goal. You're like eating lettuce all day, and it's just very sad and depressing, and you still are just never going to lose all of the weight.
Lettuce is depressing. That's true. That's confirmed scientifically.
Is it?
It depresses people.
Except rabbits.
That's not true.
No, it is. It is. Typical Democrat right here.
So if you are struggling to lose the extra pounds, I use Riduzone to maintain, and there are a lot of you out there who have used it to lose the weight, to keep the weight off. It's working for those of you out there. It's working for me. Try it if you haven't already. You can go to riduzone.com, enter promo code TheBlaze, and you will get 30% off of a 3-month supply. Now is the time. It's May. You want to get that beach bod that you're waiting for. Go to riduzone.com. All right, Stu, you said that the left, they misread the 2020 election.
Yeah, and I think it relates to Ami mania as Ami's joined the race here. I really do think it is part of this. It's interesting. Steve Bullock has got in the race, and I know everyone was waiting for the day that happened.
Who?
Steve Bullock. He is the
He's a
governor of
congressperson from Puerto Rico.
It's that, or yeah, it's close.
I was going to say just pretend like I wouldn't know.
Governor of Montana, which I guess would be 24, including Ami here. So 24 candidates in the race and announced, and it's interesting to see how it's played out. You know, we went through how many months of thinking this is a race as to who will be the most socialist. Mm-hmm. Whoever can be the most socialist will get all the activists behind them, and they will win the race because they're going to be promising the most and the biggest programs, and it's hard to get to the left of Bernie Sanders when you vacation and honeymoon in the Soviet Union. It's hard to get to that person's left. And that's been kind of the discussion for a long time. How much attention does AOC get? I mean, as opposed to her actual impact. I mean, it's a huge difference there. And I think, what we're seeing in the Democratic primary, probably most specifically with Joe Biden, is that there's a large group of Democrats who are thinking to themselves, maybe I don't want to be Cuba. Maybe I don't want to be Venezuela. Maybe that's not the right direction for us to go in. And it's interesting to see not only how he's come into the race, and he's done pretty much nothing, right? I mean, he's come into the race. All of the news about Joe Biden was before he started running. He's sniffing people's hair and such. He announced his race. He kind of came out and did this, campaign video, and then just started leading by 30 points. And it's like he's seemingly not done any big policy proposals. He hasn't done a ton of big interviews. I think he did The View and maybe one or two others, but it's been very low-key.
That's hard-hitting.
Right. I mean, very low-key. This has not been a big spectacle of an announcement. He's just been sitting back and he's thinking, look, he obviously has the big name recognition. He obviously has there's certain advantages of coming off and being a vice president. He's going to get a lot of money, and there's a lot of that factoring in. But I think the other thing is that people are looking at this field. They don't know Ami yet, so they haven't gotten to that point yet. That's going to happen on the debate stage, as we know, in just a few months. But they are looking for someone who just doesn't say that they're basically a socialist. And there are very few candidates who are running on the, I would say, sane side of the Democratic Party. Someone who's at least announced themselves as considering themselves as moderate. Someone who, Joe Biden came out and said in a speech before he announced again that he was considering, he wanted to do free community college for all. Like, that's now some right-wing position in the Democratic Party. He's giving away all community colleges for free, and that's a right.
$500 a semester.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot, right?
And he said even before that, I think he'd clarified before even he said that, was that he wanted 16 years, I believe, of free education. So he added in like free pre-K. He also added in 2 or 4 years of after high school education. He's no moderate.
No, he's not, and that's true.
I think that's what a lot of people need to. He's not a moderate.
The one thing I think he's done very intelligently so far is let people believe he's a moderate. And that's not a bad place for Joe Biden to live, because he's very progressive. People, when they come after him, and it gets down to two candidates, if he happens to be one of them, and there's one from more of the socialist wing, he's going to be able to give pretty good answers to even Democratic voters and the American people about being progressive. I mean, he's got a great, if you like progressives, he's got a long record of being very progressive. He could tell you about all the big things he's going to propose. He might not go as far as Bernie Sanders, but he'll go pretty far. And I think for the average voter in Iowa, even New Hampshire and South Carolina and Nevada, they don't want Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. That is her district. And Nancy Pelosi tried to make this point. There's like 5 people in this movement, and they're in districts where a cup of water can win as a Democrat. And she's right on that. You want to define this party as the party of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, you're going to lose. And I'm happy with that. I'd much rather have an Ami Horowitz as their candidate. We'll see if that happens. Once the debate happens, I think it'll be a fun discussion.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where I think Democrats looked at this as, how do I get on to the left, even to the left of everybody else? And it's like, well, every senator running became a co-sponsor of the Green New Deal, and now they're stuck there. And Joe Biden can come out and say, I want to do this, 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 and this on the environment, but the Green New Deal, these couple of crazy parts I'm not on. And he's going to look like the sane one.
He's got a lot of street cred for those that actually care about the environment. I think, wasn't he the first one to propose a bill, the first ever climate bill? I think back in '86. I think that was a Joe Biden thing. He was the one that helped start the Paris Climate Accords. He's got a lot of street cred there.
Yeah.
Although AOC still attacked him viciously
Yeah.
on his record on climate change. Look, it's so interesting that he was looked at as the moderate, yet instead of choosing that lane and saying, yeah, I am the moderate, I am the adult in the room, he has moved left. So I think he's dancing to the tune of the rest of the radicals in that party. Instead of saying, which the obvious move would have been like, no, I'm the moderate here, and I will take moderate positions. He hasn't done that, which I find it fascinating, considering he's had such a large lead. But I think that, listen, Joe Biden, I don't agree with you guys to this sense. I think Joe Biden in the 90s was a moderate. I think Joe Biden today simply is not. Who's the real Biden, who knows, and it doesn't really matter. All it matters is where you are today and what your policies are. But again, we talked about yesterday, but they have moved the political physics so radically to the left that the center of gravity has moved so far to the left that even a Joe Biden, who has this huge lead, has still decided, I'm going to go in that same direction.
Yeah, that is a great point, because Stu, I completely agree that he's trying to quietly leave open, I'm the moderate, but then on the other hand, he's giving speeches and he's saying I'm the most progressive person running. So it's like he's trying to balance both and cater to whoever his audience is and let them believe whatever will help him in the long run.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think he's almost trying to be a moderate in tone.
Yeah.
Right, which is, it's like his policy proposals are not moderate. And I mean, unless this is the Soviet Union, I guess they'd probably be moderate in the Soviet Union. But here, they are not moderate proposals. But he's staying back. He's not getting in screaming matches. He's generally speaking been soft-spoken, and when it comes to him, versus Trump, if he actually wins the nomination, it's going to be a lot of fighting, and that's going to be a totally different Joe Biden. But for right now, I think he says, look, I got a giant lead. I can sit back. He wants moderate voters to think he's moderate. He wants progressive voters to think he's progressive. And he's had such a long record, he can kind of argue both are true, which is certainly an advantage for him to be in that position. Now, look, Joe Biden is known for screwing things up. So I think there's a good chance he blows this and blows this 30-point lead. That can evaporate with 1 or 2 bad days. This is not going to be static at a 30-point lead for Joe Biden. It's going to change dramatically in the coming months. And there's still, almost a year until they're voting on anything. So.
Before we move on to foreign relations, I feel like this is a good time for Ami, for you to plug your campaign, amiforamerica.org.
Or .com or .net, but amiforamerica.com.org. That's right. All it takes to see me eviscerate my opponents on the debate stage is $1. $1, send me $1. 65,000 individuals send me $1. And by the way, we just announced that we hit about 15,000 individual donors
Wow.
Great.
first week.
Great.
So we are well on our way.
You're gonna get
That
this.
$1 greatest television you will see that year. We will make Game of Thrones look sad and pathetic compared to what kind of the fire will come out of my mouth. Spoiler alert. We'll destroy that stage.
And I do want to clarify, you are an open capitalist.
Yes, I will not
because
run away from that term.
Okay,
Correct.
it's hard for people in your
unabashed
party to say these days.
capitalist.
Okay, good.
Yes.
All right, just want to clarify that. All right, Jason.
So what was this on Monday? I believe we were talking about Iran, and I was pretty adamant. I do not think we're going to war with Iran. I think that the leak that came out that there was 127,000 troops that were being reviewed to be deployed. In my opinion, that was a pretty ridiculous leak that even gets out. First off, those plans are talked about and reviewed a lot. As a U.S. Marine, I've personally been involved with, I think, about 5 mock invasions of undisclosed countries. So these happen a lot. The fact that leaked out at that point was the equivalent of John Bolton, getting photographed with a notepad that said 5,000 troops to Colombia. Very, very similar. There's a right now I can pretty much nail down the Trump doctrine. Trump doctrine, as of now, says first thing you do to a country, whether it's North Korea, Iran, or whatever, is you would try to intimidate the heck out of them. If that doesn't work, then you make it appear like you're willing to use military force. He did that with deploying up to, I think, 3 carrier battle groups at one point towards North Korea. Now we've moved another one over there. Third, if those 2 options, 1 and 2, don't work, then you forget all that other stuff and you go with economic sanctions. I think that's probably what he's going to do. Now, the threats that just came out, there was over the weekend, there was 4 oil tankers that were sabotaged near the Persian Gulf. And just yesterday, there was a drone attack from Houthi rebels from Yemen on a Saudi pipeline. This is pretty much what I expected. The intelligence that said that there was going to be some kind of threat to U.S. or U.S. interests in the area. A lot of people meant that they thought this was, prelude to all-out war. This is what Iran always does. This is what we usually typically have a response to that if we have forces in the area. They always attack us asymmetrically with Shiite, militias, Hezbollah, any other, pick the other 5,000 Shiite militias that are in the area now operating for them. And they attack us, our allies, our interests. They do multiple different things. Several months ago, a Shiite militia in Baghdad launched a few mortars and it hit near the U.S. Embassy. The report that was that John Bolton wanted to do an airstrike into Iran, and then Mattis kind of talked him down off of that. I don't know if that's true or not. But these things happen. Now, I think that we're responding exactly how we're supposed to respond. We put forces in the area to say, look, if you ramp up escalation with the way you usually attack us, we're going to respond. That's how it's done with them. They're going to continue to operate that way. We're not going to war with 127,000 troops. That's stupid, and everybody surrounding Trump and Bolton right now are telling him the same thing.
Ami, you want to weigh in?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a story about nothing. I mean, he would be derelict of duty if we didn't have plans for every kind of contingency across the world on what we would do, particularly Iran, which is an enemy of our country. It's so silly. And by the way, the 120,000 wasn't about a ground attack. That was just about kind of using airstrikes and containing them. I mean, it's ridiculous that this is a story at all. And I know that my opponents in the Democratic campaign trail are trying to use this as an example of this is a warmonger, we're going to war. I mean, I don't even see an example of that they can point to at all, except for Syria, where we actually eviscerated ISIS. So the whole thing is silly. Iran is an enemy of ours. They continue to be an enemy of ours. Now, I want to be clear about Iran. It's the people of Iran themselves are actually among the most moderate people in the Middle East. They're not anti-Israel. They're for the most part not anti-American. What you have is a very hardcore leadership. And listen, obviously the best case of all scenarios would be, and when the Green Revolution was taking place, of course we let them wither and die, and the president did nothing to help them out. So the best of all scenarios would be a flip in leadership there. And I think that's still possible, but it's nothing that we can count on. It's been 1979. It's a long time. They're still there. So we have to have contingencies on what to do in case they strike us, because they just did, through a proxy, attacking one of our allies, the Saudis, And those teenagers that you mentioned with the drone attacks, they're continuously attacking our interests and our friends and sometimes ourselves. And we need to have plans on how to counter that.
We don't have to attack them. Like just before that Green Revolution, 2008-ish, is that what it was? But they were on the verge of getting there themselves at that point. And then we started negotiations for the Iran deal with the JCPOA. At this point, it's just like in Venezuela. We don't have to invade. We don't have to. Economic sanctions are in place. Diplomatically and politically, everything is pushing down on those regimes. We don't have to send in 100,000 troops or 5,000 troops to Colombia. Let nature take its course. The people there and the people of Iran are extremely smart. They've been that way for thousands of years. They will take care of this on their own. We don't have to inject ourselves any further to push it along.
Yeah, and I would just add that some of these leaks, I think I agree with you guys that who knows if these things are true? We don't know, but we do know that there are assets moving to that region. We do know that they are evacuating embassies in at least partially in Iraq.
That was the new one today,
and that's a big deal too. I mean, it's definitely escalating. I think we've learned over this, and we've learned watching American history, but also just with the Trump administration, that a lot of times the talk is very, very big on these things. I don't think Trump is not a guy who wants to go to war. That's not him at all. There's no evidence. He was very much an anti-war guy, against the Iraq War famously. This is not a guy who is passionate about going to war. I think he wants to avoid it. I mean, the way we moved out of Syria, with not completely, but largely, was a move, I think, to avoid that. I think he doesn't want to be he doesn't want to be in those international conflicts if he can help it. But he does want to show that, look, peace through strength. This is something that we can accomplish, but we can't just fold every time these dictators do something to us. So, I mean, it still very much remains to be seen. But, as of right now, I think I agree with you that I don't think we're going to war with Iran. But I don't like that these things are escalating. Hopefully they come back down to earth a little bit.
Yeah. All right. Back in a minute.
The North Korea, if he follows that doctrine, then he's just going to be like, hey, buddy, I love this guy.
Before we get to Russia, we want to thank our sponsor, who apparently thought it would be a good idea to take Stu on a cruise.
Mm-hmm. Who wouldn't want to go on a cruise with me? I can't think of anybody. Oh, okay. Well, Sarah doesn't want to go, but if you want to go, no.
I do, yeah.
I do want to go. I do actually want to go on the cruise. I just don't really care whether or not Stu's there.
Wow, it's certainly hurtful if that's what you're going for. So yeah, it's great. This is going to be amazing. Cruising through history. It's something that Glenn kind of helped design this entire trip, where we're going to Israel as part of it, Greece, Italy, Croatia. Am I leaving anything out?
Yeah, I think you're starting in Venice.
I mean, come on,
Italy,
this is going to be freaking amazing. And going back through the history of commerce and the history of faith and the history of, this is like
Indiana Jones leading this cruise?
That's a good addition. Maybe we'll invite Harrison along. No, it's going to be it's going to be a really cool trip. And as you know, I'm what is known, to quote Jim Gaffigan, as indoorsy. So I don't like to necessarily do anything outside or go anywhere. But I'm making an exception for this. This is going to be a pretty amazing trip. And it's going to be, David Barton's going to be there as well. Rabbi Lappin's going to be there. Glenn, Bill O'Reilly's going to be there. Of course, me. Plus, the real attraction, lots of Italian food.
Yes.
So I'm very excited.
You need gravitas, like a presidential candidate.
Wow, that's a good recommendation.
So if you guys want to learn more about this cruise, you can go to
primary season. You'd be like leaving for several weeks.
Cool.
Okay,
totally cool.
Okay, that's fine.
ComeSailAway.com for all of the details. That is ComeSailAway.com. All right, Russia. Are we frenemies? What's going on here, Ami?
So this is a story that's less about the relationship between Russia and the United States and more about how the press covers that relationship. Okay. So recently Pompeo met with Sergei Lavrov, his opposite number in Russia, and they discussed things that they agree on, discussed they disagree things on, and Venezuela, Iran, so forth and so on. That's fine, no huge amount of news there, except it kind of reminded me of this whole idea of fake news. And what does fake news actually mean, right? So what's an example of fake news? So fake news, for example, when I did a video about Sweden that hit the headlines, and New York Times, a front page story about this video that I did because it created a whole lot of controversy. And what do? So my argument in this video was, hey, Islamic immigration into Sweden, massive amount of Islamic immigration, has increased the rates of murder and rape, specifically those two metrics. Mm-hmm. What does the New York Times do? Their article is, he's wrong because criminologists say crime is down. Nothing to do with my argument. I was making a specific argument, but they make a straw man argument on the front page of the New York Times. Never mind at the end of the article, they said, we asked Ami Horowitz for comment, they never got back to us, which is a total and complete lie. They never got to me. Yeah. Okay, so when coming back to Russia and the United States, what do we have? So you see on the front page of the New York Times and CNN saying that we've got this weird relationship in Russia, and our president is the most pro-Russia president we've ever had. That's the headline every time they mention the president and Russia. And the reality is so far from where they've been painting this. In fact, I would argue that rhetoric aside, and rhetoric is important, and it bothers me that the president has this weird kind of affinity toward Putin when he speaks. I don't like it. I didn't like it when he did it with Kim Jong-un. I don't like it when he does it with Putin. But in reality, if you look at what he's done, the actions he has taken, okay? For example, he armed the Croatians. I'm going back to the cruise. He armed the Ukrainians, which President Obama never did, right? What we've done in Venezuela, in Israel, in Iran, in Syria, have all gone against the express point of view and express policy of Russia. And maybe the biggest of all of them, frankly, is the fact that what is Russia's most important source of revenue? Oil. Oil, natural gas. It is a total. Their economy is totally based on the petrodollar. And what is the president doing? He's increasing fracking, increasing energy independence to drive down the price of oil, harming Russia. So the truth is, and this goes back to this idea of that this is an idea of fake news. What fake news really is, it's not they're making up stories out of nowhere. They're taking stories and they're just putting their own spin on it, which is wrong. And this is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, Jason, we got about a minute left. You want to chime in on this?
I absolutely agree. If you just look at policy, what he's done, I mean, how many people has he persona non grataed and kicked out? He's closed multiple diplomatic facilities. Thinking after the Skripal chemical attack, the things that he has done are not pro-Russia at all. Yeah. Another thing that I would like to say is just really quick is it doesn't like every president has wanted to be close to Russia. Every single one of them since FDR. And none of them have been successful. And it's never going to be successful. It's not in Russia's nature to be friendly with the West. I'm sorry to say that. It's not pessimistic. It's never going to happen. So no matter, even if Trump wanted to be close to Russia, if he really, really wanted to, and a lot of them have really, really wanted to, Hillary Clinton pressed the reset button with them, for crying out loud. Yeah. It'll never happen.
Last word.
Quickly, I think you're right. I mean, rhetoric is important. I don't think it's important with Trump. I think what he says is not necessarily material to the conversation because, as he admits, he's always negotiating. So just look at what he does. And with Russia, he's been very strong against Russia.
Yeah. All right, back in a minute. Yet you still see the stupid memes on the internet. It's like, oh, Trump's improvement. Well, I would like to bring a top story to the table for everyone. It is our very own Jason Buttrell's birthday.
Whoa, you totally spun that.
Wow. Nice. 81.
No, actually, that's not true. And so here's the cake here, and then we'll discuss his age.
Oh my gosh, you guys are awesome.
80% of the cameras are lit.
We don't
have rights for that song. Sorry.
So we found out it is Jason's 58th birthday. So we have a picture to commemorate that.
You don't look great for 58, but you don't look terrible for 58.
Happy 58th birthday to you, Jason.
Thank you, Sarah. I really appreciate it.
And I did make it a point, when I heard that it was your birthday, I did make it a point to not bring it up at all. So just to like throw you off, and it killed me because I saw you earlier today, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I want to say happy birthday.
No hitter, you don't mention it until it's done.
No one cared. That's why I was just so downtrodden.
Wait, because isn't today the anniversary of the Israel trip? So you were in Israel last year for your birthday?
Yes.
We sent you into the Middle East for your birthday.
Yep.
You're welcome.
That's what you guys usually do to me.
Sounds about right.
Something dangerous going on? Jason, go.
Sounds about right. Well, we're very appreciative of all of the work that you do here and, filling in on the show. You are like our right-hand man for that.
Is this? I'm not comfortable with this. I do not sign on to any of these statements.
You haven't done jack for me.
And we just wanted to wish you a very happy birthday. I'm not going to eat any of that cake. I just want you to know.
Oh, you will.
So
I'll make sure it happens.
All you. Happy birthday, and Overtime starts next.